30th birthday, has announced he's taking a whole week off of television. A whole week. I know that your thoughts and prayers will be with Alex at this dark time. Rumour has it he's checked himself into the world-famous Betty Ford clinic over in Palm Springs. Not for the usual sins, your booze, your drugs, or even an unfortunate gambling addiction, but for something far more insidious. A crippling dependence on being on telly. It's said that the withdrawal symptoms have already kicked in. He now refuses to communicate with his partner unless it's via an earpiece. Now, I, for one, am just relieved he's finally found a healthier way to deal with his unquenchable thirst for screen time, rather than mysteriously taking out the competition, who fall foul to sudden illness. Patrick, Christie and I have noticed the pattern, Alex. We're on to you. And if that wasn't enough heartbreak for one show, Kai Wilshaw isn't here either. Now, brace yourselves for this one. He's off in Saudi Arabia. Yes, I'm not joking. Wales's wokest warrior, the man who's never met a pronoun he wouldn't correct you on, has jetted off to Riyadh. And let's just say I sincerely hope he left his latest iteration of the trans flag at home, because I'm not entirely sure that Mohammed bin Salman is as enthusiastic about gender inclusivity as he is about, well, other forms of discipline, shall we say. And who knows, if we're lucky, we might even get a live report from a Saudi prison this time next week. Fear not, still standing stiff as a board, ready to take on the left, upright, alert and at the ready position, is everyone's favourite Willie of Oz, Will Kingston. And to ensure things don't get too out of hand, or in it, we've got our glamorous GP, Dr. Renee, on standby, ready to administer the necessary medical interventions. Though I'd like to clarify, not that kind of intervention. Pause off. And as ever, each of our punchy panellists will make their case, and then it's game on. Things spiral faster than Ed Miliband blowing 22 billion quid of your money on a carbon capture scheme about as effective as Diane Abbott at a maths contest. Slated this week in a damning parliamentary report was that carbon capture stuff, by the way. This man turns me redder than his politics. And everyone's favourite reasoned supremo, of course, Chloe Dobbs, joins us this week, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing what she has to say. She's like a Rottweiler when she gets started, I tell you. You know the drill. Each host outlines their argument about a chosen topic, then we all pile in, and the fur starts to fly. And, of course, we want to know your views. Do send your views and post your comments by visiting gbnews.com/your say. And don't forget your questions for Ask the Five. No topics are off limits. Now, before this descends into total chaos, or Alex mysteriously returns into the studio like a man suffering deprivation, it's time for your Saturday Night News with Sam Francis.
Darren, thank you, and good evening to you. Just coming up to 5 minutes past 6. Well, clashes have broken out in London between police and protesters at a demonstration today against plans for a massive new Chinese embassy near the Tower of London. Scuffles saw police wrestling protesters dressed in black, with officers also retreating as masked demonstrators linked arms and appeared to move towards them. 2 people were arrested for breaching public order conditions. Former Security Minister Tom Tugendhat has called the development of that embassy a grave mistake, accusing the Labour government of ignoring lessons from the past decade. The family of released hostage Eli Sharabi say they are relieved he's free, but heartbroken at how frail he now looks, describing him as confused, gaunt and missing his spark in his eyes. His wife and 2 daughters were killed by Hamas militants during the October the 7th attack. He was paraded by gunmen in Gaza alongside 2 other captives in a televised event condemned by Israel. Meanwhile, all 183 Palestinian prisoners due to be released in exchange have now been freed today. The process is part of the first stage of a ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas that started last month. Back here at home, the Foreign Office has denied reports it's set to open talks on slavery reparations, with Caribbean officials demanding trillions of pounds from the United Kingdom. According to the Telegraph newspaper, a meeting could be held as soon as April, after Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley previously demanded almost £4 trillion from Britain. The Foreign Office, though, has told GB News the story is false and misleading and insists the government's position remains unchanged. but the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, has previously been vocal in his support. In other news, the parents of a 15-year-old schoolboy stabbed to death in Sheffield have been leading a march today in his memory. Caroline and Mark Wilgoose walked with hundreds of others through the city, holding banners and calling for an end to knife crime. Earlier, a mass was also held to remember Harvey, and the vicar at St Joseph's Catholic Church spoke to our GB News reporter, Anna Riley.
It was a very moving service. Sometimes simplicity is the best. And it came across very well, and people held the family very much in their prayers. One quote I will give from the service is this, that we cannot suffer as Harvey's family are suffering, but we can suffer with them, walk with them.
Well, the Day of Remembrance culminated earlier with fans at Sheffield United's match clapping Harvey in tribute to him. A boy, also 15 years old, has been charged with his murder, with a trial date set for the 30th of June. All reruns of old Gino D'Acampo shows have been pulled from the ITV schedule after allegations of inappropriate behaviour against the TV chef. A new series of Family Fortunes that was filmed in October 2023 has not been broadcast so far, and as it stands, there are no plans to do so. D'Acampo has been accused of making inappropriate sexual comments while working on a string of ITV programmes. He, though, does firmly deny any allegations that have been made against him. The King and Queen welcomed celebrities, chefs and diplomats to their Highgrove estate last night to celebrate Italian slow cooking. The dinner, with dishes including crab, ravioli and pork, along with wines from England and Italy, come ahead of their Italian state visit later on this year. Among the guests were Victoria and David Beckham, Dame Helen Mirren and Stanley Tucci. And the menu honoured a special cause close to the King's heart. It is a tradition of slow cooking. It promotes the right to good, to clean and fair food for all, and strives to preserve traditional and regional cuisine, and is championed by many Italians. And a cold snap is sweeping in, with temperatures set to drop, I'm sorry to tell you, as low as -7 degrees over the coming days. Britain is also bracing for a showery rain, with a yellow weather warning in place across much of the country, and snow expected in many northern areas. The Met Office says demand for healthcare is also likely to rise. But thankfully, the return of the dreaded beast from the east is unlikely. That's the news on GB News. A full roundup at 7 o'clock. Now, though, it's back to Darren and the Saturday 5.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Who cares about a beast from an east when you've got a beast from the northeast, eh, my friends? It's Saturday night and you're with the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, and I can promise that you're in for a very lively show. We've had a few comments coming in already, many thoughts and many prayers with Alex at this really difficult time. And actually, some good news. Tobias says, I assume Kai got to Saudi Arabia by solar panel or rowboat. There's no way he took a flight, surely. And Anne-Marie has some good news. She says, Grumpy Grandad is back home.
Yay!
So we're all delighted to hear that news. Then we do have it pointed out by Judith that there are too many women on the show.
It's amazing. We're in control. We've taken it.
I feel like, Judith, I feel like I'm on an episode of Loose Women. I really do. I really do.
Better.
Right, I'm going to kick us off, my friends, and I want to actually start by saying it's another day, but it's yet another brain-dead idea from our ruling class, solving nothing while real problems spiral out of control. Idris Elba, the actor, thinks that kitchen knives should be sold without a pointed end to stop stabbings. Yep, he floated this on the BBC's Today programme, and they all cheered in middle class. And a week later, Home Secretary Yvette Cooper said she's looking into the proposal. Meanwhile, I watched footage of a maniac waving a machete at London Bridge. The police pulled it out. It was like a python. That sounds quite rude, actually. I didn't mean it like that. A vet pet, I say this to you. Removing the pointy end from your mother's big knife isn't going to stop violent thugs. I'm going to take you to the Bible, because in Cain and Abel, Cain didn't need a big Tesco loyalty card to murder his brother after buying a blade. If someone wants to kill, they'll find a way. Will Mrs. Bowles ban forks next, just in case someone gets a nasty poke? And maybe, just like with shoplifting, criminals simply don't fear the law anymore. Could there be a reason there? Maybe we should ban the focus on DEI and focus more on the fact that your kids could DIE at the hands of a blade. And while our leaders obsess over this pathetic nonsense, they bend over backwards to defend the indefensible. There was a Pakistani predator jailed for grooming barely prepubescent girls and was actually allowed to stay in Britain because he had a duty of care to his children. His wife even blamed her neglect in the bedroom whilst ill for his perversion. So why do paedophiles have more so-called European human rights than the rest of us? Because even if we could deport them, Pakistan might refuse. But will this globalist jamboree of a government dare scrap the 133 million quid in foreign aid that we send to that horrid regime? Of course not. Rupert Lowe says deport, deport, deport. I agree. If the law doesn't allow it, change it. Stop protecting predators, stop the woke screens that deflect from the real issue, and for the love of sanity, start prioritising the British people. It drives me insane, Renee.
I think you just highlighted a really interesting point, actually, when you compared the paedophile that we can't deport to the knife crime. We have got a problem in this country with general breakdown of society and crime. And whilst I absolutely agree with you, these kids will kill each other with ballpoint pens if that's what they want to do. We need to sort out disciplines in school, but also what is going on at home. If we don't sort out parenting and what is going on with parents, we won't sort out the kids at school. So why are we focusing on overseas people that we should just put back there? I don't care what happens to him, let it happen, when we should be focusing all of our energy on our children in this country and making them into decent adults.
What does it say about the human rights racket when it's seen as being more in line with said rights to keep a predator with his children than to safeguard the children?
Well, I think when you argue that a paedophile needs to be a role model for his children, we've had that a couple of times now, we're lost. Yeah. We've lost our way.
You're right.
But
We've heard this before.
What does it say about our ruling class that they don't have the common sense just to say that that's ridiculous or just to say sod off?
Exactly.
You know, they have to have this sort of lawyeristic talk.
Well, he does.
And across a range of issues, whether it's Chagos, whether it's reparations, like just a common sense sod off. That is not how we do things in Britain is appropriate, but they don't have the guts to do it.
No, they don't. Chloe, I mean, how depressed are you with the state of the lack of common sense, I guess?
I mean, it just seems like there's a complete deficit of it and amongst our ruling class at the moment. This talk about blunting the end of knives. I mean, come on, the problem is that there are no consequences for carrying a knife on the streets of Britain.
That's true.
Yes, we see the odd video of, for example, someone at London Bridge being caught with a machete, but we've seen plenty of other videos of people dancing around, having duels in broad daylight on the streets of London and no consequences. We hear stories of people having been caught time and time again, but the police let them off over and over and over again. And then you find out that sadly they've ended someone's life when it could have been checked in much sooner. It should be the case that if you're caught with a blade, you are going straight to prison. That would solve the problem,
Chloe,
not cutting the ends off. They'll find a way to sharpen.
Chloe, what you've just hit on is important because this sort of silliness and lack of courage has consequences. Like if we're going to say that these problems are as a result of sharp knives, as a result of, say, a lack of cultural cohesion, as a result of importing the third world, it has consequences. And one of those consequences, people will die. This isn't just a theoretical conversation.
Nikki, Shell's messaged in saying, Darren, we already have a treaty in place with Pakistan, but we did find that with some examples recently that the press was saying that the Pakistan authorities just said, no, we ain't taking them, even though there is this treaty. So do you think the government does have a duty to be more forthright?
Well, we've got a massive problem with child abuse in this country anyway, and the majority of perpetrators are white British people.
Exactly, but Renee said there, though, didn't she, that we need to focus on the issues we've got at home without importing foreign ones.
Well, sure, but I mean, did we know he was a paedophile when he came over? I mean, it's a bit
No, but we do know he's a paedophile now.
Well, we did. That's true. That's
So
true.
get rid of
That's
him.
true, Renee. But we didn't necessarily know when he came over.
No, of course
That's what I'm
not.
saying. We've got a crazy problem with child abuse in this country, and we do find it very easy. I'm not saying for a second what he's done is appropriate or right, or he should be treated with any kind of levity, but we don't deal with our own paedophiles very well.
No, we don't.
We don't put them in prison. We don't give them any kind of help either to try and kind of rectify their behaviour.
You can't rectify the behaviour of a paedophile.
Well, that's the thing. That
then given life sentences. Meanwhile, you have Pakistani Muslim rapists in areas like Rotherham and Rochdale who are put behind bars for only a couple of years if they are convicted.
Well, one of the problems
that is two-tier justice.
No, one of the problems with the prison service is the fact that there aren't any prison places to put anybody, regardless of what crime they commit.
For that paedophile ring in Glasgow.
All of them.
They did. Yeah, they did. And it does show that two-tier justice, does it not?
We've got a lot of middle-class and upper-class white paedophiles in this country that will never see the light of day in a prison, ever. They're never taken to account.
But this is deflection, Nikki.
What I'm trying to say is I'm not saying for a second that anybody who's a paedophile shouldn't be brought to justice, but we've got so many of
But it's deflection.
ours.
Right. Now, fancy your chance at home to be one of 2 lucky winners in the Great British Giveaway. Well, we've got 2 fabulous prize bundles to give away, which both contain £500 worth of shopping vouchers for your favourite store, the latest iPhone 16 and an incredible £10,000 in tax-free cash. Here's all the details. Still to come tonight, Chloe's going to delve into Reform UK's latest poll searches. Is Farage really right that something out there in the country is really happening? Next up, though, sources claim that the Foreign Office is to open talks on slavery reparation. The Foreign Office and Commonwealth and Development Office, and they deny it, my friends. But can they handle the pressure? Well, let's see. You're with the Saturday 5, live on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. You're a rowdy lot on gbnews.com/yoursay, keeping those questions and comments coming in for Ask the Five. Thank you very much for those. Now, though, it's time for our next debate. Right, I think I know who's going next. Uh-oh. Take it away, Willie.
Thank you, Darren. The Telegraph has reported today that the Foreign Office is to open talks with Caribbean officials on slavery reparations. Those Caribbean officials are demanding trillions of pounds from the United Kingdom. Now, the Foreign Office has denied this. In fact, the powers that be have asked me to read out a statement from the Foreign Office. This story is false and misleading. There is no planned delegation of Caribbean leaders or officials in the spring, and our position remains that we do not pay reparations. Now, with that being said, forgive me for being sceptical, particularly as we have a Foreign Secretary who is on the record as having said this. Roll the clip.
As Caribbean people, we are not going to forget our history. We don't just want to hear an apology, we want reparation.
Reparations aren't just a silly concept, they are morally abhorrent. For starters, the United Kingdom is broke to the extent that I would suspect a lot of the white working class would prefer to be living in the Caribbean than in the UK today. Moreover, they have nothing to do with the slave trade. UK taxpayers have nothing to do with the slave trade that was ended 200 years ago. Ended by the United Kingdom, by the way, who also, as an aside, brought democracy and the rule of law to dark corners of the globe. This story fits a pattern. If the Trump mantra is America first, the mantra under Starmer appears to be UK second. There always seems to be another interest group that gets put before the British people, whether it be the Davos set, whether it be international human rights lawyers, whether it be climate zealots, or whether it be these reparations grifters, to which I have a very simple two-word response to their request. Sod off.
Well, thank God it was Ofcom compliant. That's all I can say.
Love Ofcom. Love Ofcom. Always compliant.
God bless you, Ofcom. Nikki, what do you make of that then? Because David Lammy has, of course, denied it, but as Will says, they make more U-turns than positions in the Kama Sutra.
Well, it doesn't really matter if David Lammy denies it. I mean, it's something that's an ongoing debate in this country, isn't it? There are lots of different groups and people that clamour for reparations. I mean, yes, it's true that we did end slavery, but not until we'd participated in it for a substantial amount of time to make a lot of millions of pounds profit out of the sugar trade. I mean, the reality is in the Caribbean now, much of the land is completely unusable for any kind of crop because of the way that we abused it. And I actually am pro-reparations, I'll be honest, because I'm ashamed. I'm ashamed of our country's history.
Are you?
Yeah, and I'm not ashamed to say that.
I'm actually really proud of our country's history.
For slavery, though, Renee.
Yeah, I think we did some bad things. I think we did some bad things, but we also mainly did good things.
Not after 200 years.
We brought infrastructure to places. We brought culture. You know, there are good things and bad things, and we've learned from those mistakes. We abolished slavery. I'm proud of this country and what we did. I don't have anything to do with what people did. I didn't ask them to make people slaves. I would never make people slaves. I can't pay people now for what people I never met. It's not my fault.
But they're not necessarily asking you to pay.
Of course they are.
No, they're not.
Where do you think the money's coming from?
There's so many things they can cut back on and give the money from that as a fund. It's not from your pocket.
The Caribbean have had all this time.
Sorry, I can't.
It's not, Renee.
Of course it's from my pocket.
It's not.
It's taxpayers' money.
There's so many pockets of money available.
Where is all that money from?
The main one.
Nikki,
let me finish my sentence. The main one is the millionaires and the billionaires that are not taxed. It's the tech companies that we frequently talk about, like people like Amazon that are paying 3%, 4%, 5% tax and actually just had a levy to not pay anything.
That's money that we don't have, Nikki.
But we can go after it.
Oh, God.
Well, actually, Nikki, I think you'll find that there's a £22 billion black hole that you people...
Well, all the more reason to be going after it. We've got loads of things we need to pay for.
As Chloe rightly said, that you wouldn't have heard, because of Nikki, that actually the millionaires and billionaires are leaving the country in droves faster than...
Nikki, why is the UK uniquely morally culpable when slavery was a part of pretty much every single civilisation, including those Caribbean cultures that we're meant to be giving money to?
Because if we think we are moral people, then we should lead the way. It doesn't matter if nobody else is doing it. That's the whole point of morals. That's the whole point of morals.
The West has been demonised. There's been this woke ideology that has taught a lot of young people and students across the West that we are horrible people, that we are the worst countries in the world, that a lot of people, I think, believe that we are the only ones in the West. We are the only ones that engaged in slave trade. It's completely not the case. In fact, there are many slaves still alive and living in slavery today.
There are slaves in this country.
Where is the mass condemnation for that?
But Chloe, it doesn't matter. If we want to be moral people and set the example, then we should lead.
All right.
What do you think about partition? You think we should be proud of that? You should think about the way we treated Burma, Myanmar. You think we should be proud of the way that we treated any of the Caribbean? There is a litany of examples of us absolutely exploiting people.
Nikki, I would say that my ancestors, who many of them go through the coal industry...
And mine too, Darren, yeah.
Well, fine. But why the hell should they pay for Caribbean mistreatment of their economy over the last 200 years when slavery was abolished?
That would be
because it's not about that. It's about finding a pocket of money of which there are lots of different ways we can get the money. I'm not saying go into the taxpayer's pocket. But I'm saying it is a positive thing to set a moral standard to apologise for something that was abhorrent.
We've got pensioners freezing this winter.
And
sadly, we've got farmers who are going to have to give up their farms.
Sure, which is all government policy, and I don't agree with either of those things.
But you think we should, for example, make more pensioners free?
No, I think we should go after tech companies. We should go after tech companies that are paying 5% tax. It's tech companies.
Okie dokie, diverging opinion there. And that one, I think it's safe to say. All I would say is if Mr. Lammy wants to insist that he's Caribbean, perhaps he could move and help them rebuild their economy. He's so good at it. Anyway, right, what have we got now? Of course, we've got that comment that Will read out from the FCO saying that this is an older nonsense. But still to come tonight, my friends, don't forget to film your questions and send them to us for Ask the Five. We'll answer them very, very soon. Next up, though, reports say Angela Rayner's drawing up government Islamophobia definition. Is this the return of the blasphemy law? And is Reform UK an unstoppable rise to the top? You're at the Saturday Five, live on GB News.
Ready to soak up that holiday sunshine?
Won't we need some cover?
No worries. All sorted.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're looking for some winter sun, Spain wouldn't be a bad shout. Fine, at least for Sunday. Unsettled in Italy and reasonably breezy in Greece. We've seen that quite frequently recently, and with some showers to boot. But across Italy, well, that's where some more unsettled weather is heading, especially in the west, the north, and then Sicily through Sunday and into Monday. Iberia, fine for now, but it will turn more showery from the west as the week begins.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
Because
the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akweer, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, though.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Thank you very much for getting in contact at gbnews.com/your say. Craig says this very curtly. Craig says, you want to be moral? You pay. Well,
sure.
There we are.
Sure.
Right.
Sure.
I look forward to you signing the cheque on air.
That's a good point. There should be a voluntary fund for English upper classes to actually put money into it. Let's see how much money goes there.
OK, right. We'll get on to our next debate now. Right. Who is up next?
I'm afraid it's going to be me.
Well, don't be afraid at all. Take it away, Miss Dobbs.
Well, I've got another apology. This is a big apology to the supporters of the Uni Party, because I'm afraid the turquoise tidal wave cannot be stopped. The Reform Party went from just a year ago often being called a joke. We were told that a vote for the Reform Party is just a vote for Labour, that they'll never be able to make big gains in a first-past-the-post system. But now it seems like they might be handed the keys to number 10 at the next general election. Now, I know polls aren't perfect, but there is a very clear trend of poll after poll putting Reform further and further ahead. We've now had YouGov, probably our most renowned pollster, now put Reform in the lead on 25%. That is astonishing. And we've had a Find Out Now poll put them on a huge 29%. And we know if things keep going the way they are and they get into the 30s, that is when they can really, really make big waves in a first-past-the-post system. Find Out Now, that poll was translated into a map by Election Maps UK, which really does show a big turquoise tidal wave. Look at that map. That is just incredible. What this party has managed to do is astonishing. And that suggests that they would have 253 seats with the Tories on only 40. That is absolutely incredible. We were told that the Reform Party have absolutely no chance at getting anywhere in a general election if they don't make a pact with the Tories. But Zia Youssef, he said that they don't need to do a pact with the Tories. That would be like Netflix doing a deal with Blockbuster Video. Completely unnecessary. And a lot of people laughed at him for that, but now it really is looking like they could do it all alone. I think it's probably about time that we start arranging the Tory party's funeral and the celebration party for Reform already. They've got 4 years to go, and it's already looking like they've just about killed off the Tories. Kemi Badenoch, she's tried to revive the Tory party, but she's been pretty disappointing, if you ask me.
Chloe, what do you think's more difficult then? This idea, because there's been lots of reports in the press suggesting that Reform will ultimately merge with the Conservatives. Do you think that that would be more difficult than bringing about prosperity and peace in Syria, where she's just been, by the way?
Do I think that them doing a pact with the Tories
The Tories would be more difficult than bringing about peace and...
I think that they need to see what happens over the next 4 years, but they need to wait until the last
Most
moment.
people say to me, I wouldn't even want them to countenance the idea.
Well, that's the thing. If they were to cosy up with the Tories right now, it would look really bad for them.
It would be a disaster.
I think they need to really try their best to completely kill them off before 2029. If they get to 2029 and they are struggling, then maybe they can have a conversation. But right now, I think it would be an idiotic thing to do, and I think they genuinely can do it by themselves.
So I don't think it's about
4 more years.
I don't think it's about them struggling. I think if they get to 2029 and it looks like we're going to split the vote down the middle and allow Starmer back in, that's when people might have to just take a strong gulp of their drink and say, OK, to stop this man getting in, we will tolerate this.
Well, there's some breaking news, actually, which is party politics related. The Health Minister, Andrew Gwynne, has been sacked over comments posted on a WhatsApp group. A government spokesperson said this: "The Prime Minister is determined to uphold high standards of conduct in public office and lead a government in the service of working people. He will not hesitate to take action against any minister who fails to meet these standards, as he has in this case." Andrew Gwynne's statement after being sacked as Health Minister by Keir Starmer says this: "I deeply regret my badly misjudged comments and apologise for any offence I've caused."
Oh, you know we want to know what he said now, don't you?
Yeah, we'll get into some of this a bit more later.
The rank hypocrisy from Keir Starmer after the lockdown fiasco of the last week, it is staggering. Buy a mirror, mate.
Well, keep that thought in your head, because we'll talk about that more. But it does show, well, does it not, that actually things ain't going too well?
Yeah, it certainly does. Again, it's hard to make a comment until we know what actually was said in that WhatsApp message. But I suspect that if it was someone who he thought he could not afford to lose, he wouldn't have made this decision. I think this shows that this is an opportunity to spice up that portfolio.
I just also think it shows that being in government is hard, that all of these people forget they're in government and they carry on with their nasty sniping in their groups, thinking they're safe, and they're idiots, all of them. Conservatives, Tories, the works. And it also stops them continually sniping at Reform about, oh, that man 30 years ago hit his girlfriend. They're all the same.
Nikki, are you quivering in your size 4s?
I'm size 3.5, actually.
Oh.
But I'm not.
Wasn't that far,
Good guess, Darren. No, I'm not quivering. What, the prospect of Reform getting in? Absolutely not.
What, you don't think it'll happen?
No, the reason I don't think it'll happen is because they've got a massive problem with fake candidates, as we saw in the election, including one guy that was actually dead.
That was
Remember
debunked. That was debunked.
Come on.
The fake candidates wasn't debunked. The fake candidates wasn't
was?
debunked. No, it wasn't. There were definitely people that were
We
not who
had
they
one
were
of the
meant to be.
fellas on GB News that was told he was fake.
One of them was, yeah, but
Well,
I'm saying,
we
like,
didn't
they...
get the dead man on,
But
Nikki.
if they can't get right who's real, who's not as a candidate, who's alive, who's not, that doesn't put a lot of confidence in them. But more than that, actually, Darren, there's a couple of things. One of them is that Richard Tice, when he was leader and he was speaking before the election, kept banging on about British values, but every time he was asked to define them, he never did that. And I know that this is a massive thing for Reform, but I've got no idea what they actually stand for, apart from the immigration thing. The other thing is that Nigel is just so egotistical. I don't think he's going to let the seat go for anyone else. So a lot of it is going to be about the internecine conflict in that actual party.
So I know them really well. I know Richard Tice very well, and I know very clearly what Reforms stands for. And
So
we
why
know what they
doesn't
stand for.
Why won't he define
You know
on
what they
TV,
stand for,
Renee?
Nikki? They stand for what the everyday person is thinking.
Yeah. OK, Renee, stay on you, because it's you now.
Oh.
I believe. If my powers of elimination are correct. Take it away, Dr. Renee.
OK, so I have something to say about the Labour Deputy Prime Minister, Angela Rayner, who this week announced that she's going to set up a 16-person council to make a legal definition of Islamophobia. My heart sank when I heard this. This is the death of free speech if she does this. Such a definition could cover for culturally unacceptable behaviour by Muslims. Think Rochdale, think Bradford. We looked away for so long because of culture. It could actually stop us investigating cohesion in society and why things aren't working as well as we think it should. It is important to say that there are bad actors of every faith, of every race and of every colour, of course. So we don't want to tar everyone with that brush. However, but this definition could cause institutional blindness for things that we have seen happen in the past. They've happened in the past, they'll happen again if we allow this to happen when we have only just been allowed to turn that stone over and talk about the problem. Facts are facts. The majority of the terror threat in this country come from Islamist extremists. Facts are facts. Pakistani Muslim men are disproportionately overrepresented in group-based child exploitation persecutions. It's also possibly going to lead to a de facto blasphemy law. We have a clip here of Tahir Ali, who's recently asked for one.
Last year, the United Nations Human Rights Council adopted a resolution condemning the desecration of religious texts, including the Quran. Will the Prime Minister commit to introducing measures to prohibit the desecration of all religious texts and the prophets of the Abrahamic religions?
So there you have it. And this week in Manchester, a man has been arrested and charged with a racially aggravated crime for burning a Quran. Now, I wouldn't burn a religious book in public. I think it's rude. I don't think it's necessary. But I do defend my right to do it if I want to. And therein lies the problem. We have a teacher still in hiding after 3 years in this country for showing a cartoon of the Prophet Muhammad. Nobody's helping him. If this definition is adopted into law, I would not be able to say what I've just said to you guys. I might be able to say it once, but then the heavy hand of the law would come down on me. Why? Why are they so determined to not allow us to speak? Perhaps because it will turn over that stone on multiculturalism failing.
Yeah. The key word there in those comments was culture. Cultural decisions are just that, they're decisions. The whole problem with this debate is that we've conflated race with culture. You should be allowed to criticise cultures because they come down to a series of choices that people make.
And you know,
race is a separate issue.
As a Christian as well, I would 100% allow someone to burn a copy of the Bible, but providing it was their own property and not burning someone else's property. But I see this as the protection of one religion in particular. It's...
Well, Will, you're spot on when you say that we've conflated race and religion and race and ideas. We were told, as you pointed out, Renee, when this man in Manchester was arrested, it was for racially aggravated disorder. I'm sorry, but Islam is not a race. It is a set of ideas that deserves criticism. And
as does every set of ideas.
And I am terrified of us ending up with blasphemy laws in this country. The Labour Party, they are obsessed with Islamophobia. I don't know if you guys remember before the general election, we had this video put out of Keir Starmer and Sadiq Khan sat on the sofa having a heart-to-heart about how we need to do more to crack down on Islamophobia on social media.
And
no mention of anti-Semitism, of course.
And the one of Angela surrounded by the...
But there's a reason for this, and it's because they're very, very worried about their vote base.
Well, we've just found out in a report that 80 out of 89 of the seats in this country, where the Muslim population is more than double that of the national average, 80 out of 89 of those seats are held by Labour. They will be terrified. We had some MPs and some very nearly unseated by pro-Gaza independents.
We're streeting. Andrew Rayner.
Can I just say, sorry, Dan, it is deeper than that, though. It is this ideology that now permeates the left around the world that says that words are violence, and as a result of that, we need to crack down on them, particularly if they're words that we don't like.
Well, 15 years ago, we should have listened to Christopher Hitchens. That's all I can. Nikki, right, come on, let's bring this in civilly and let's bring this in where we can hear each other.
Well, words can be violent. Words can be...
By definition, they can't.
Words can be performative, just like when you say I do when you get married. It has a legal promulgation. I mean, the thing here, really, is the fact that actually we haven't seen what the proposition of the text is yet. So it's all right to get upset about the idea of it, but we really need to see the definition.
Well, we have really, because we've seen the AGGP and Dominic Reeves,
I think we need to actually see the words that are being proposed first before we can really pass judgment. And the other thing is that the biggest problem here around Islamophobia, or how it's defined in this country, is that we are still very poor at distinguishing between Islam and Islamism. And that is a key problem for how we discuss violence, aggravation, whether people should be protected or not.
Oh, I think there are still questions to answer with respect to Islam, particularly with how they think about the treatment of women, minority groups.
Well, Christianity is just the same. All Abrahamic faiths at their root, do not respect women.
OK.
The Bible is full of it.
Well, this debate could rumble on and on all night, but we'll have to leave it there. Still to come, though, President Trump takes on the world. Dr. Renee takes on Will over plastic straws. And in breaking news, the Prime Minister sacks a minister over some questionable WhatsApps. I'm keen to find out.
Me too.
Next, though, one of the top owners on OnlyFans says she was unhappy while on the platform. So can money really buy happiness? Nikki will discuss that next. You're with the Saturday 5. We're live on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel. And as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, he didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
Because you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Kerr weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday 5. Thank you very much for getting in touch at gbnews.com/yoursay. We'll get on to your messages very shortly. Now, though, it's time for our next debate. And I believe there's only one person left. And I'm not Carol Vorderman, but I can figure that out. Nikki, take it away, my friend.
Thank you, Darren. So we've had so many stories recently about OnlyFans, the rise of OnlyFans, how much money you can make, the thousands of pounds you can cash in by putting pictures of your feet or videos of other parts of your body, maybe without clothes on, up there. And it's become something of an ambition for many young people to have a popular OnlyFans account. We've seen lots of celebrities cash in by propping up their poor tour performance sales by appearing there again. And there seems to have been this fashion for thinking that it's massively empowered, it's a great thing to do, it's easy money, it'll pay for your degree and all that kind of jazz. And the reason I feel quite passionate about this is because I used to be a sex worker, sadly not on OnlyFans, which would have been lots easier than what I had to do. I was a professional dominatrix. I won't go into the details because it's still a bit early, but I'm sure you can Google it. Anyway, as someone that has worked in that industry, I know all too well the toll it can take on your personal well-being, on your mental health, on your prospects for dating, marriage and all the rest of it. I've managed to come off okay as a result, but it's taken many years. So I want to ask, is the OnlyFans bubble about to burst?
Well, answer this, Nikki, because Will is a sceptic that the likes of Lily Phillips and Bonnie Blue. It was Lily Phillips that did that interview where she said she didn't feel too good about what she'd just done. Sure. Which was, what, about 100
She
men?
cried, didn't she?
She cried.
Yeah.
And Will said, that's pantomime. She doesn't mean this. She's shed tons of money. Do you think that with these women, and men, to be fair, that are doing these things, that there is an element of it doesn't feel right? But
I think it totally depends on the person. And I think with Lily Phillips, actually, I do agree with Will, because she's made loads of money on other sites that I won't name as a result of that stunt. It was a stunt. It was a marketing stunt. Yep. And she maybe does feel bad about it as well, but she has cashed in. So it's achieved the goal that she set out, initially to go for.
So I can hand on heart say I've never been on OnlyFans. I don't understand the actual appeal of it, because you can go onto any porn site and watch pretty much whatever you want for free. I don't understand why you'd pay for an OnlyFans account.
Because you believe it's for you.
Well, no, but also part of the thing is that you can tip people and pay them to make you specific kinds of videos and perform specific acts. Right. So there's an idea of control, which appeals to a lot of men, actually.
Firstly, I'm going to say this to you, Nikki. I think you're really, really brave for coming out and saying what you just said, and I really do.
Well, it's all over the internet, so...
Well, anyway, but I still think, for talking about it the way you do, and I think there are lots of women out there who have been where you are who don't talk about it, and they live with what they think is shame, and they shouldn't be, and they really shouldn't. So for me, this story, I found it very sad, but I also thought she was really brave. And if more young women, older women, whoever, could come out and talk about these experiences, it might detract for our younger women to think that that's a career choice.
Yeah, I mean, this is what I say all the time. I still hold by what I did, and it was the right thing for me, because I didn't have any money to pay for my free internships into the media. The only reason I'm sat here is because I was a dominatrix. If you really want to think about the economics, and actually, but looking back, I think, well, it'd be much better if I could have just got a paid job or a grant for something. It would have been better that I didn't have to do it. Now that I'm so many years past,
but the OnlyFans money you're talking about, though, is far more than I assume you would.
Well, no, I don't think it is. So the average OnlyFans creator makes £1,200 a year, in a year. I mean, this particular girl that was talking about her story said that she made up to £9,000 a month. Now, the thing about sex work, and I had the same problem, because you're charging £200 an hour for a service, it gets very easy to get attached to that money. So unless you're training as a barrister, where on earth are you going to kind of make that rate otherwise? And so then you get stuck in a cycle of not being able to get out of the work because of the amount you're being paid for.
Do you think
a brief sentence from you, sorry.
I think a lot of girls are being sold a fantasy.
Yeah, I was just
by a few people that do make a ton of cash out of it. So they think, well, if I go into this, I'll be rich, I'll be free, I'll get to quit my 9 to 5. But actually, it turns out to be a pretty depressing reality for many.
Now, lots more to come tonight. See you after this.
We will win! We will win! We will win!
Well, the biggest trigger tantrums coming up. Stay tuned.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather updates provided by the Met Office. The cloud that we've had around throughout Saturday is going to be staying with us into Sunday as well, particularly across central areas of the UK, Northern Ireland, into parts of England and Wales. We'll continue to see outbreaks of rain and drizzle this evening and overnight. For the far north and south, though, we will start to see some clearer spells emerging, and underneath those clear skies, temperatures will drop off quite a touch, as low as -7 degrees Celsius for some rural parts of Scotland. This will be accompanied by some freezing fog patches, maybe also some icy stretches where surfaces are still wet, particularly if left untreated. Despite the very cold start to the day in Scotland, though, it is going to be a very sunny one here once the fog does eventually clear its way off, and we'll hold on to the sunshine right throughout the day. For Northern Ireland, then, into those central areas of England and Wales, it's going to be dull, drab and dreary, unfortunately. Further outbreaks of drizzle to contend with. But for the far south of England, we're starting the day off with something a touch brighter here. The cloud will tend to build from the east throughout the day, so we're going to be left with the fringes of parts of Pembrokeshire, West Wales and down towards Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly that will hold on to the sunshine the longest, whereas further rain pushes into southeastern England later on. With the cloud around, it is going to be another rather cold day, particularly once you factor in the easterly wind that's going to start building once again. So it's going to be feeling colder than these temperatures necessarily show on the chart. And that easterly wind is something that will hold on into the new working week as well. High pressure stays in control across Scandinavia, allowing that easterly wind to push its way in, and that is going to add a wind chill factor on top of the already cold conditions. Further showers pushing in from the North Sea with an extensive area of cloud. Those showers will be wintry over higher ground areas as well. It's a scenario that we're going to have to get used to because it is expected to stay very similar throughout the forthcoming week. Cloudy for the vast majority of us, and temperatures still slightly below average for the time of year. Bye-bye. Enjoy your evening.
We can expect clear skies, leading to a light and warm day ahead. Lovely. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently.
It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it?
It's explosive.
I mean, this is very good.
It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial.
And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born.
It's everything you need to kickstart your evening.
Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it.
That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
no,
isn't it?
because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent?
I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Saturday night and this is the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, along a still alive panel you'll be delighted to hear. Will Kingston, Dr Renee, Chloe Dobbs and Nikki Hodgson join me alive and well. Plenty more to come tonight. We'll be reacting to the breaking news that Sir Keir Starmer has sacked a Labour minister, and the Saturday scrap as Will takes on Dr Renee over paper straws, a menace. Plus, why is this man putting on his lipstick? Is that his shade? We'll discuss. This week's Triggered? That would be a good segment as well, actually. Triggered Tantrums are coming up shortly at 7 p.m, my friends, and this is the Saturday 5. Also coming up, anti-LGBT plus soup Lego and the Democrat politician who sterilised herself after Donald J. Trump was elected as president. Doing the world a service?
Yeah.
We'll also be answering your questions in Ask the Five. Send them through to gbnews.com/your say. First of all, though, it is Saturday Night News with Instagram sensation Sam Francis.
Very good evening to you. It's just after 7 o'clock. We will start with a recap then of that breaking news in the last few minutes. The Labour's Andrew Gwynne has been sacked and suspended from the party after WhatsApp messages have been exposed. The former health minister was read mocking a 72-year-old constituent and making anti-Semitic comments, including questioning if someone was, quote, too Jewish and in Mossad. The messages revealed by the Mail on Sunday also included hopes for the pensioner's death and insults shared in a Labour councillor's group chat. Sir Keir Starmer says the Prime Minister, he is committed to high standards in public office and won't hesitate to act against ministers who fail to meet them. And, of course, plenty more on that breaking news later this hour with Darren and the team. In other news, though, clashes broke out between police and protesters today at a demonstration against plans for a massive new Chinese embassy near the Tower of London. Scuffles saw police wrestling protesters dressed in black, with officers retreating as masked demonstrators linked arms and moved towards them. 2 people were arrested for breaching public order conditions. Former Security Minister Tom Tugendhat called the development of that embassy a grave mistake, accusing the government of ignoring lessons from the past decade. The family of released hostage Eli Sharabi say they are relieved he's now free, but have been left heartbroken at how frail he looks, describing him as confused, gaunt and missing the spark in his eye. His wife and 2 daughters were killed by Hamas militants during the October the 7th attack. He was paraded by gunmen in Gaza alongside 2 other captives in a televised event condemned by Israel. Meanwhile, in exchange, all 183 Palestinian prisoners due to be released have now been freed. The process is part of the ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas. The Foreign Secretary has denied reports the Foreign Office, has denied reports it is set to open talks on slavery reparations with Caribbean officials demanding trillions of pounds from the UK. According to the Telegraph newspaper, a meeting could be held as soon as April, after Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley previously demanded almost £4 trillion from Britain. The Foreign Office, though, has in response told us here at GB News the story is false and misleading. They also insist the government's position remains unchanged, but the Foreign Secretary, David Lammy, has previously been vocal in his support. The parents of a 15-year-old schoolboy stabbed to death in Sheffield have led a march in his memory today. Caroline and Mark Wilgoose walked with hundreds of others through the city, holding banners calling for an end to knife crime. Earlier, a mass was also held to remember young Harvey, and the vicar at St Joseph's Catholic Church spoke to our GB News reporter, Anna Riley.
It was a very moving service. Sometimes simplicity is the best, and it came across very well, and people held the family very much in their prayers. One quote I will give from the service is this, that we cannot suffer as Harvey's family are suffering, but we can suffer with them, walk with them.
The Day of Remembrance culminated earlier with fans at Sheffield United's match clapping Harvey in tribute. A boy, also aged 15, has been charged with his murder, with a trial set for the 30th of June. President Donald Trump is set to revoke Joe Biden's security clearances and stop his daily intelligence briefings, as he said there was no need for his predecessor to receive classified information. In a post on Truth Social, Trump said, "Joe, you're fired," as he referenced a report by special counsel Robert Hur that described Biden last year as a well-meaning, elderly man, but with a poor memory. A spokesperson for Biden has so far declined to comment. And the wreckage of a small plane has been found in Alaska after suddenly losing altitude and crashing earlier this week. The flight left just after 2:30 on Thursday afternoon, but contact was soon lost. According to the firm's operations director, the US Coast Guard said the wreckage has been found atop frozen ice and also sadly confirmed all 10 passengers on board were killed in the crash. That's the news on GB News. I'll be back with you in an hour, and we can now, of course, get plenty more on that breaking news regarding the Labour MP Andrew Gwynne.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
Cheers, Sam. It's Saturday night, my friends, and you're with the Saturday 5. I'm Darren Grimes, and I can promise that you're in for a very lively hour. Lots of your comments coming in thick and fast. We're going to get into more of them in a second. But there was a funny one here. Should GB News get reparations for listening to Nikki? Well, I'll leave that to our viewers' discretion. Right, we'll crack on with our big interview. We want to get to that breaking news, my friends, from the last hour. Health Minister Andrew Gwynne has been sacked over comments posted on a WhatsApp group. Now, listen, I'm not someone that likes to throw someone under the bus for leaked comments that have been jokes or all the rest of it, but some of these comments are pretty bad. Mr. Gwynne reportedly made anti-Semitic comments and joked about a pensioner constituent, saying he hoped she died before the next election. This is according to the Mail on Sunday. A government spokesperson said this: "The Prime Minister is determined to uphold high standards of conduct in public office and lead a government in the service of working people. He will not hesitate to take action against any minister who fails to meet these standards, as he has in this case." Andrew Gwynne's statement said, "I deeply regret my badly misjudged comments and apologise for any offence I've caused."
Badly misjudged. What does that actually mean? Does that mean I shouldn't have written them down? He obviously thinks them, and this is obviously a deeply unpleasant man from what's been reported.
Yeah, well, I agree with you, to be honest, Renee, but the fact that it actually, I think, reveals what the Labour Party think about pensioners.
Yeah,
you know, they don't vote for us, so we don't need to help them out. I wish they would die. They're just a burden on the Treasury.
That's spot on. It is a real mask-off moment for many members of the Labour Party that hold this part of the country in such disdain.
Well, let's find out what Nigel Nelson thinks. He joins us now. He is, of course, GB News' senior political commentator. Now, Nigel, I mean, come on, this ain't great, is it?
No, it's not great. And Keir Starmer's absolutely right to fire him immediately. I mean, these are absolutely disgraceful comments. There is sort of smack of anti-Semitism about some of them. You just referred to the one about hoping a pensioner would die. It's not acceptable. I mean, even if it was a private WhatsApp group, it shouldn't have been said. But the Prime Minister has both sacked him as a minister and suspended him from the Labour Party, which is the right thing to do.
Nigel, do we have any idea why this has been leaked? I mean, are there tensions within this particular group? Was this group a local association group? What are the facts that we actually know?
Well, it was a local group. There was a number of councillors who were on Labour councillors who were on the group. The Mail on Sunday reckons there was also another MP who was a member of the group, but doesn't identify which MP that might be. It was obviously a private group, but somebody quite clearly leaked the details to the Mail on Sunday, and as a result, that's the end of Andrew Gwynne's career.
Do you think actually there'll be a demand for a recall petition within his constituency?
No, I mean, I don't think that would happen. I mean, the next stage would be, the only way you can have a recall is if he's actually suspended from Parliament, which he's not been. He's been suspended from the Labour Party, so it's only if the Standards Commission gets involved and suspends him from Parliament that a recall petition could happen. I don't think any of those things are likely to happen. Is that he's pretty much lost his career now. So after 20 years of being an MP, there isn't much future for him.
Yeah, 20 years as an MP, and people didn't know the contempt that he had for pensioners, one might argue.
Well, I mean, we don't know. Certainly, in conversations I've had with him, I've never heard anything that's been vaguely either anti-Semitic or against pensioners. If anything, he's always stood up for pensioners. So when I saw those comments, I was as surprised as you were, Darren.
Yes.
But when the Prime Minister saw them, there was no question that he was going to act and act immediately.
Yeah. All right, Will?
Yeah, Nigel, I see here that he's being sacked as much for stupidity as for how morally wrong his comments are. What is the process by which politicians are coached or told about these sorts of comms violations? Surely there is practices in place where they're told, if you say something in a WhatsApp group, there is every chance that it will end up coming out in the press.
Yeah, I think it's just plain common sense.
Well, yeah.
That as well.
Is you don't stick stuff like this on a WhatsApp group. I had no idea that Andrew Gwynne ever thought these kind of things. He certainly never said any of them to me, but he has put them on a group. It was a pretty stupid thing to do, and that's a message to all MPs that always imagine whatever you write down, whatever you post, will one day come out. And if you're not happy to see it on the front page of the Mail on Sunday, don't do it.
Well, quite. Renee?
Yeah, hi, Nigel. I guess what you're saying is absolutely right. But at the same time, regardless of the fact that he's always been perfectly lovely to you, this man obviously is a deeply unpleasant chap if these are the things that he thinks, and he suddenly, for some reason, is writing them down. So whilst we would say to people, be sensible, don't write them in a group, do we really want people who think like this in any political guise?
No, we don't. And that's why he's been fired. These comments have just come to light. I mean, we've only known about this for pretty much the last 30 minutes. So the moment the Prime Minister heard about it, he didn't wait to have an investigation or anything like that. He immediately sacked Andrew Gwynne and suspended him from the Labour Party. That was the right thing to do. Since then, Andrew Gwynne has confirmed that he did indeed say those comments and has apologised for them. Now, whether you think that apology is good enough or whatever, I don't know, but you're absolutely right. People who think these kind of things should not be in politics. And effectively, Andrew Gwynne is no longer in politics, although he does remain an MP.
Yes, I mean, he said, Chloe, that someone sounded too Jewish. I don't even know what that means.
I mean...
They probably said, "Oh, they."
They.
Yeah, I mean, these comments are absolutely horrendous. Now, you said, Nigel, that he probably will not be forced out of his seat, but do you think there's a good chance that he will make the decision to step down and will have a by-election coming up?
He might, and that's entirely a matter for him. Obviously, it depends on the reaction within his constituency, within his constituency Labour Party. Now, these comments have come to light. So it may well be that what we'll hear next is that Andrew Gwynne decides that he will step down as an MP. Really, that's a decision for him, his local Labour Party and his wider constituents.
Yeah, and Nikki, on that point, should it be easier to recall an MP? Because one of our viewers, Morris, says that actually big news, Labour minister hates old people. I can't believe it. Obviously being sarcastic. But is there a right question here about, one, has the Labour Party tarnished its image with older people? And secondly, should it be easier to recall MPs?
It should definitely be easier to recall MPs. I mean, I'm kind of amazed that it's taken 20 years for him to say something like this, to make a misstep like this. Because if he's always held these views, why has it only come out now? Which actually makes me a bit suspicious about whether there's somebody who's trying to get rid of him as well. And that they've always known that he's kind of a bit like this, but now's the moment they've decided to push him off the cliff.
Interesting. And Nigel, on those 2 points...
That could well be right. I mean, clearly somebody had to leak it. It looks like it's somebody who was privy to the group. I can't think of any other way it could actually get out. Obviously, the Mail on Sunday won't be telling us their sources, but it could well be somebody who wanted to damage his career, career, make sure that Andrew Gwynne is finished as a minister, and in which case that has been totally successful.
Nigel, I don't wish to be impertinent, but you've been around the block a wee while, and I'm wondering, have you, in your experience, experienced a government make a fall from grace after winning a spectacular majority so fast?
Yeah, I mean, actually, ministers do tend to sort of come and go all the time. So you get a lot of people who disappear for whatever reason. I mean, so far we've had Lou Haig, who's from transport. That happened fairly quickly. Loads of people went under the last few Tory governments. I mean, this just happens in politics. So I'm not surprised that another minister in this Labour government has gone.
Tulip Siddiq as well.
It was Andrew Gwynne.
Yeah. Yeah, there was Tulip Siddiq. She got sacked, didn't she, over the house? What was it? Bangladesh links.
Yes, the corruption charge.
Corruption charge. Yeah, and as city minister in charge of dealing with corruption, it's quite. But what I mean, though, Nigel, is that, and you know, let's not beat around the bush. The collapse in the polls, that's pretty unprecedented for a government.
Oh, yeah, I agree with you there. I mean, we've got a situation at the moment where certainly reform is on a roll. We've got the Tories who are neither here nor there under Kemi Badenoch, and Labour, through the budget, have done a number of things which have proved to be unpopular. Now, that collapse of the polls then is to be expected. So I don't think that this kind of thing adds to it. What you've got is you've got one person who certainly put his foot in it, and now that Keir Starmer has got rid of him, everything moves on. But yes, it's going to. I think it will take Labour a while to get back ahead in the polls.
Wow.
And you're certainly doing a good job at the moment.
Well, if you're a betting man, Nigel, I'd quite like to put a bet on with you about that. To be quite, I won't do it over the air, but we'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Nigel Nelson, for popping up and giving us the latest there on the fact that Labour Minister Andrew Gwynne has been sacked as Health Minister over comments made on WhatsApp. Ian says, should this Labour MP not be investigated for hate speech, or is that only applied to the so-called far right? Well, yeah, not very nice about pensioners. Who knew Labour had dodgy views on pensioners? Well, right, next, fancy your chance to be one of 2 lucky winners in our Great British Giveaway. Well, we've got 2 fabulous prize bundles to give away, which both contain 500 quid worth of shopping vouchers for your favourite store, the latest iPhone 16, and an incredible 10,000 quid in tax-free cash, you lucky lot. Here's all the details. Still to come tonight, in Triggered Tantrums, we'll show you our favourite meltdowns of the week, including...
I'm not one vegetarian in America voted for Elon Musk.
How terrible. I don't know how Elon sleeps at night. I really don't. Stay tuned to find out what she's on about off our rocker. But next, Donald Trump wants to bring back plastic straws. Is he right to do so? Can plastic straws save West? You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
I'm Tom Harwood. This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
In the GB Newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
we're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're
the failure is...
deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff.
Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood.
So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is the nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. Thank you very much for getting in touch at gbnews.com/your say and asking your questions for Ask the Five. Dick has asked us to wonder what would happen if someone from Reform had said something similar about Muslims. I imagine that would have been fire and fury, and the person involved would have been called upon to resign and all the rest of it. We'll see what happens here. Mike, though, writes in with a view that's shared by many of you at home. Andrew Gwynne reflects a strong and sickening current of ageism among Starmer's cabinet. Well, he was a minister, but yes, I get the point. His comments are despicable. Older people will not forget Labour. Yes, I think, actually, you know, this ain't the way to go about it, winning back voters, is it? And Pat says not one person in the UK voted for our Attorney General, for example. Starmer made him a Lord so he could give a job to his mate. And look at what's happened there, the Chagos Islands, all these other things. It's insane. Right, and Nigel Nelson says they can come back. They'll come back, they'll be top of the polls.
You should have done that bet on air.
I should have. Right now, though, it's time for this. Ding, ding, ding. I fancy bringing Nigel Nelson back, actually, to put him through his paces on that remark. No, though, what we're going to talk about is, in tonight's main event, Donald Trump has said he would sign an executive order ending what he calls President Biden's ridiculous push for paper straws and to bring the ones back that are plastic. The statement comes just weeks after Trump made the decision to pull out of the Paris climate change agreement. Is the US president right? Should we bring back plastic straws? Who's going? It's Renee and Will.
And I'm going to kick off.
OK. Dr Renee's going to take it away. Seconds out. It's round one. Ding, ding, ding. Dr Renee.
OK, so Trump is right. Paper straws are rubbish. They don't work. They're useless. But he's wrong. We shouldn't bring back plastic straws. We should just get rid of straws. Nobody needs a straw. You have a mouth. It was designed to drink. End of story. If you're really bad, go back to baby times and have a bottle. 8 million tonnes of straws are discarded into waste every year. That waste is some inland, some in the ocean. In the USA alone, 500 million straws a day they get rid of, and in the UK, 8.5 billion straws a year. Now, those straws, when they end up in the ocean, are killing 100,000 marine animals and 1 million seabirds every single year. There's forecast to be more plastics in the ocean in 2050 than there are fish. More plastic than fish in 2050. They take 200 years to break down. Plastics not only end up in our animals, they end up in us. We've just found microplastics in the brain. They cause inflammation, perhaps that's why we've got so much Alzheimer's. And there is a concern for them actually being cancer-causing. So, you know what? Because we don't need them, let's just not have them when they're so damaging.
Renee, honestly, I'm disappointed in you. I didn't pick you as a greenie, tree-hugging, soy latte-drinking, kale-eating eco-fascist, but apparently that's where we are. There is a cancer at the heart of British society, Renee. In fact, there's a cancer at the heart of Western society today. And it goes something like this. If there is a minor problem or irritation that is identified, you'll have a small group of pious, moralising activists who will say, well, we need to either regulate that out of existence or we need to ban it. And as a result of that, the small little joys of life just get chipped away at. And it may just start with the plastic straw. And I would dispute that. It's lovely to drink a nice cold Coke with a plastic straw on a warm summer's day. And those little joys of life, there would be someone who wants to enjoy a cigarette, they're going to go as well. It's all because a relatively small amount of people want to virtue signal. I'm so sick of this instinct in our society today that says we just need to ban things out of existence. This is a slippery slope. But I know you like the slippery slope argument in other contexts. If you start to say here that we just ban things that we don't like, then that will continue to happen for the things that you do like. Now, we are banned happens when you can't do absolutely anything else to mitigate against the problem. In this instance, you probably can, whether it be telling people to put their rubbish away in a more proper way or better waste disposal management, I don't know. But a ban is not the answer.
OK, so I'm just going to dismiss your straw man argument because this isn't a tiny little thing.
I see what you did.
This isn't a tiny little thing. This is killing marine life. We actually need the oceans and we need the fish in it to survive. I have children. I go diving with my children. We love to see that. When you finally meet a girl, Will, I know it's hard and you're trying hard. When you do, and one day maybe have a baby, you too might want to frolic on a beach with both that said wife and child. And you may want to see the wildlife in the sea that you're killing. We don't need to have straws, but if you're desperate for one for your little Coke in the summer, get a metal one.
I am single, actually, Renee. And by the way, if anyone out there is watching and is interested, I am available. Renee, again, the UK's actually pretty good at this waste management stuff. The vast majority of the animals that are dying are coming from, you know, the Philippines that don't seem to have any care.
I don't go diving at Southend, Will.
Oh, but all the rubbish, it all just kind of, because of tides, they all just end up kind of bobbing away into the Pacific or Atlantic Ocean. We're good at this stuff, but it's just another example of other countries that have a problem, and the poor UK citizens who want to drink out of their plastic straws are the ones who have to pay for it.
OK, I quite like plastic straws because I don't like... I used to have quite sensitive teeth, and the sugar not hitting the teeth, or whatever it is, cold even, the cold and not hitting the teeth.
Use Sensodyne toothpaste, it works.
No, I did.
It is inhumane what you're doing, Ruth.
Well, hang on, I want to put quick questions to you from our audience. Nicky, Grumpy Grandad, a great man, says paper straws don't last as long as the drink, so don't bother. Just neck it. End of straw.
Exactly.
What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely agree with Renee. I mean, metal straw's the way. Good Liberals carry their own straw.
Big Steve Chloe says, I love Willie, but I agree with Renee on the plastic straw. It was spelled Rennie.
I mean, I'll probably sit in the middle of you two, to be honest, because I agree with Renee that most of the time you don't need a straw, but I do think there are times where, let's say, you know, Darren needs one for his sensitive teeth, or if you're a girl with some nice lipstick on, you don't want it to all come up on the cup.
So metal one, have a metal one.
But do they not get filthy?
They are hard to clean. But what I think it just...
First world problems.
You shouldn't put straws in drinks unless someone has specifically asked for one. That would massively reduce the usage of them. The paper ones are rubbish, but you'd barely have to put out many paper.
Okay.
But lots of bars do that.
I want to get the audience in on this. So, Renee, one of our viewers says, what about people with disabilities, for example, who need to be given a straw?
Spot on.
Again.
Bamboo or metal.
Bamboo.
Someone asked
Use
me if I
reusable
was
ones.
disabled once on a train because I was drinking out of a Camelback straw.
Renee, do you know how expensive metal straws can be?
Bamboo.
They're about £2.
In this country, it's another attack on pensioners.
Bamboo.
And then Leslie says, to Will. I'm disappointed in you, Will. Why would an adult need a straw?
Thank you. Well done, Leslie.
I normally don't drink.
This is
straw, but
why-
I thought it would help my argument. Just to paint a bit of a picture.
Leslie, this is why Will does not have a girlfriend.
All right. Still, I'm with you on the plastic straws. I like plastic straws. Still to come tonight. Dear Lord, I've seen it all now. This week's triggered tantrums coming up, but next is telling men that they give you the ick affecting their mental health. Will has just put in a complaint to GB News HR about Renee's comments on plastic straws. That's coming up next. Plus, we find out why Lego is homophobic. Everything is these days. Even I am, apparently. You're with the Saturday 5 live on GB News.
Can't wait to get in that sea.
Lovely and warm.
Just like the feeling of having great travel insurance.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
If you're looking for some winter sun, Spain wouldn't be a bad shout. Fine, at least for Sunday. Unsettled in Italy and reasonably breezy in Greece. We've seen that quite frequently recently, and with some showers to boot. But across Italy, well, that's where some more unsettled weather is heading, especially in the west, the north, and then Sicily through Sunday and into Monday. Iberia, fine for now, but it will turn more showery from the west as the week begins.
All Clear Travel Insurance sponsors GB News Travel Destinations Forecast.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. This is GB News, the People's Channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation,
No,
isn't it?
because
the failure is
you're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back,
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
and we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Dubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. Will has managed to extract a pledge from Dr. Renee to swim off Southend. So we look forward to seeing that happen. She'll be caked in plastic straws when she emerges like a monster.
Absolutely.
Right. OK, thank you very much for getting in touch. And Barbara says you can buy reusable rubber straws, but then someone else, whose comment I have just lost annoyingly, Adrian says, no, it's Ice Cold Truth, says anyone can see the milkshake problem when you've got a big plastic milkshake, right? And every compartment of this milkshake is plastic, apart from your paper straw, which you can't suck out of because its end gets wet and then it's rendered useless. And then lots of people saying, well, what about disabled folks? That keeps coming up.
This is the thing with lefty virtue signalling. There's never any kind of internal consistency or any logical consistency.
Well, Renee is very left-wing.
Absolutely.
Now, next up, my friends, it's this. OK, Willie is standing poised and ready to take it away.
Yeah, there was a story this week about Sam Kerr. Sam Kerr is the captain of the Australian women's football team based in the UK, not our greatest export. She also plays for Chelsea in the Women's League. The story goes basically that she got absolutely boozed, got in a taxi, refused to pay, and then when the taxi driver locked the doors and tried to take her to the police station, she ended up breaking the window, she threw up in the taxi, and she generally behaved like an utter bore. But then, when she got to the police station, she ended up saying something which has got her into trouble with the police. I think we actually have a clip there. Let's roll that clip.
Honestly, you guys are stupid and white.
Okay.
I'm looking you in the eyes.
Why are you
I'm
being
looking you in
racist?
the eyes. Like that stupid.
She's now been charged with racially aggravated harassment. And the question that I have for the group is, can you be racist if you're speaking about a white person?
I think you absolutely can. Yeah. And I hate the fact that we live in a world now where someone like her can say something like that and she'll get away with it. She won't be kicked off her football team. People won't think it's racist, but the reality is, it is, at least to us, blatant racism. Just to test it, just switch the colours round, OK? Imagine if that was a white person in the police station saying to an officer, you're, you know...
A stupid black person.
Exactly. It is just
Well, it's because the way that racism has been redefined by the left, it's not really about discrimination anymore, it's about historical power structures. And that's why they'll say, oh, well, because the white people traditionally have been more powerful, you can't really
But
be
she,
racist.
in turn, has accused the police of being racist. So it's a hierarchy of victimhood.
Yeah.
You know, this is the problem with identity-based politics. It is poison.
Yeah.
OK, Renee, what have you got?
So this week a story broke where the Science Museum had an audio tour that you could buy into that actually told you that Lego was anti-LGBT. It was homophobic. The reason for that is that apparently Lego has male and female parts. Who knew? I know all of them hurt if you tread on them. And these parts are made for them to mate with each other. So this is heteronormative. I'm having to read these words because they're so ridiculous. That heterosexuality and male and female gender binary are the norm, was the suggestion from Lego, and everything else, therefore, is unusual. Well, I'm going to say this. Firstly, it's ridiculous that you would see those bits on a bit of Lego as male and female parts. Who have you been sleeping with? And secondly, I'm going to say this. We need the world to mainly be heterosexual because that's how we make babies. So if suddenly being heterosexual is the abnormal thing in society, we're going to be dead soon anyway. So Lego won't count because there'll be no one here to build it.
Sorry, just to be clear, are you telling me that there is actually male and female genitalia on some Lego blocks?
So apparently the bits that stick out the top are the male genitalia and the holes that you put it into are female.
Richard, no, it has never crossed the mind of anyone that isn't
Absolutely hasn't.
Like, just let kids be kids. Let them play with their toys and just get on with it. They don't need to be lectured about any of this woke rubbish. There was a story not too long ago about local councils putting out advice to parents that when they play Monopoly, they should give the white children extra money and less jail time to teach them about their white privilege. This advice was put out by local councils along with a whole load of other...
mean that the non-white kids would lose more Monopoly games. That's not fair at all.
Renee, you've got to read out out this comment from
okay.
Science
Let's hope I can see it.
magazine, Science magazine.
Science Museum.
Museum mag. Was it in published in a magazine?
I don't know if it was published. It was a tour that you could get at the Science Museum.
OK, well, they've said this.
This blog post was published online in 2022 to highlight a small number of objects on display at the museum that relate to LGBTQ+ individuals' experiences and communities.
Now, I asked you to read that out because I want you to respond to that. Did you find it funny? Did it win you round?
It didn't win me round, and I'm actually a member of the Science Museum. I have an annual pass. I am, because I have a child and we like to go there. But actually, they're so woke that they have gender-neutral toilets, and I sometimes have to stand in a tiny toilet with my 6-year-old with a great big burly man waiting for one of the only 2 cubicles. Disgusting Science Museum.
Whenever these people get called out on woke silliness, they always try and minimise it, don't they? They don't. They always kind of go, oh, it's just a small group of people, or it's just a minor thing.
Okie dokie. Right, what have I got for you? Now, coming up then, this Democrat politician, her name is Lori Pahutsky, and she's 36 years of age, and she has sterilised herself in the wake of Trump's re-election. She has opened up on her decision to voluntarily forego having children rather than raising them under this new Republican government. She's a little-known representative in the Michigan State House, where she sponsored a raft of progressive legislation, including bills to protect the right to abortion, enable gender self-identification, and make June LGBTQ+ Pride Month. So she's decided that because Trump got on, she said that she's spoken on a rally and she put a rapid response to change illegal actions from Donald Trump and his plutocrat allies. So she's decided to sterilise herself. And all I can say to that is, you have done the world a great service. So I wish you well, Laurie.
Well, I was going to say, in case you out us from our WhatsApp group, I said exactly the same when you showed me that story, that she'd done a service to society. This is mental health at work, isn't it? It's just mental health at work. Any woman that would deprive themselves of the opportunity to have children in the future because of President Trump. I mean, there are condoms, there's don't have sex, there's the pill. I mean, there's lots of ways to not get pregnant.
Yeah. But at 36, I mean, what would be the healthcare advice at that point?
We would really counsel somebody at 36 not to do this, because you never know what's going to happen in 2 years' time.
Right, Chloe, what have you got?
Well, it seems as though universities are being forced to either go woke or go broke. The Research Excellence Framework has changed to say that you're not going to get your hands on any of the £2 billion of taxpayer money up for grab for research if you haven't filled your university with DEI policies. If you don't have enough BAME researchers on your team, well, I'm sorry, no research is going to happen. It used to be the case that the focus was just on producing good quality research and that research having an impact whether you'd get the funding or not, but now they are obsessed with wokery. And this is a plague that is not just in universities, it's across many sectors. We've seen the National Trust have been under fire for putting up adverts for DEI roles. We've spoken about museums, Renee has just done, and the arts, museums, National Trust, universities, they are being forced into this position because they can't get the funding that they desperately need if they do not tick all these DEI boxes. It's ruining some great institutions in this country, and it's a great shame, I think.
And you know what? I think the institution that ruined it the most and allowed this to happen is called the Conservative and Unionist Party, because they had 14 years in office and they allowed this to run rampant and this poison to spread throughout said institutions.
This is the thing.
It's just the race to the bottom, isn't it? We're just well along the race to the bottom.
Yeah. No, we absolutely are. Nikki, what have you got?
Ooh, so what have I got? Well, there's a story this week about the word ick. Do you know what it means? It's when you kind of have a feeling of, I don't want to be near that or think about that thing anymore. And it's particularly used in dating. Now, a group of therapists have come out and said that this is particularly insulting to men because it tends to be women that say they've got the ick about someone and that it's damaging their mental health. The last time I looked at dating apps, you were allowed to say you didn't like somebody. And the word ick has now entered the Cambridge Dictionary to explain just that. I'm very, very confused by this story because I just think it's kind of like feminism and women's rights to be able to decline somebody.
No, I'll tell you why women get the ick quickly is because they have a unique ability to smell genes, which men don't have. So when you have this intuitive feeling, I don't like this person, and you don't know why, it's often because you can smell their genes.
You're going to make Will cry.
Well, Nikki, all I can say is that
yours must stink.
all I can say is that words are violence. I'm going to stick up for men here. You should absolutely not be allowed to say that because that is being violent against me.
But what about against women then? Because men also use it against women.
Women never said on dating apps to you that you give them the...
Now we'll get you to it.
Harm your mental health?
I think by this stage it's water off a duck's back for me. When you just kind of get it so often, you just learn to roll with the punches by this point.
Okay, yes. Well, I mean...
We're going to be crying in a minute.
Look, I think we all just need to grow up a bit.
Yeah.
And stop being so pathetic.
Yes.
You know, if someone says they give you the ick, well, that's their...
I mean, I think that's very direct, isn't it? I'm not sure I'd just say... why not be polite to people? Just say, you know, it's not working for me.
Yeah, it's just not for me.
But that's the same as saying, you give me the ick.
I think
not necessarily.
I think girls more so say, oh, he gave me the ick to their other friends. They don't say directly, oh, I don't want to go on a second date with you.
You give me the ick.
You give me the ick. You'd say, sorry, I'm just not interested. I think most of the time.
Yeah, agreed.
All right. Leaky says, Darren, as far as I'm aware, the Conservative government didn't run universities. It was Labour that cancelled the free speech bill. Well, yeah,
yes, but they still ran them
It took
before.
them until the end of 14-year terms to actually get the free speech bill put in forth. Anyway, Triggered Tantrums is coming up next. You're with the Saturday 5. We're live on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes and Co weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Mornings don't have to be tiresome, especially if you have the right company.
Wake up to news as it happens, opinion and debate, and of course, a little bit of entertainment too.
Because when the kettle's on, we're on.
That's Breakfast on GB News, a show worth waking up for.
Every morning from 6 a.m.
Only on the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
We'll spread the news, you spread the word.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK,
We're ready to keep you up to date with what's happening every half an hour, every single day. Bulletins here on GB News,
the People's Channel,
Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts.
This is GB News, the People's Channel. This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Welcome back to the Saturday Five. Coming up from 8 p.m, it's Ask the Five. Send through your questions to gbnews.com/your say. Right, folks, for our first instalment of Triggered Tantrums, this week's best in huffing, puffing and blowing absolutely nothing down. If you thought toddlers were dramatic, just wait till you see this lot.
Yeah, we're going to start with the leader of the Democrats in the Senate in the US, Chuck Schumer, in his youthful, vibrant, charismatic way, trying to rally the troops against that evil Donald Trump and Elon Musk. Let's roll the clip.
We are going to fight this fight. I am going to stand with you in this fight, and we will win. 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 We won't rest. We won't rest. We won't rest.
Oh, dear.
I love the guy waving his stick.
If only I could have an ounce of his charisma. Just fantastic. And I love how he changed it up halfway through. He went, we won't rest, we won't rest. And he was trying to get everyone on board and they just couldn't quite get there.
It's sad.
There's a serious point that needs to be made here, though, and that is the pipeline for the Democrats is absolutely thin as anything. They've got no junior talent coming through, which is why we've got has-beens like this.
I saw the chairmanship of the Democrat National Convention. The candidates there were all asked a very simple question, which was, raise your hand if you believe that Kamala Harris lost as a candidate because of racism and misogyny. Yeah. They all raised their hands. Yeah. They all raised their hands.
So they need an excuse.
Yeah, they just don't get it.
Maybe it's because she couldn't put a sentence together. Surprise, surprise.
But why are the Democrats as well, all of their top tier, Nancy Pelosi, Chuck there as well, they all seem to be getting on a bit.
Yeah. Well, the cynic in me says that these people can now make so much money through the political grift that it's very, very hard to give that up.
Well, yeah. All right, Renee, what have you got?
So it turns out with mine that the left don't even need to speak anymore to make their protests and have their tantrums. There's a beautiful clip here of a person who I think is probably a teacher who is on day 7 of wearing lipstick to school until we get a new president. And he literally spends 2 minutes putting on that lipstick really badly and just protesting with no words, just lipstick. The only thing that worries me about this is this guy's probably a teacher. Do we want these idiots teaching our children? I certainly don't.
So what is meant to be sacrificial about the putting on the lipstick?
Well, people are going to notice him, Darren.
Right.
They're going to notice.
Oh.
But he went for Republican red. He looks like a Trump supporter.
I saw Chloe Dobbs let out a single tear there when she saw this sacrifice that this man had.
This is the thing. It's
so
the whole
distressing.
me. Activism now is just a way to basically say how important am I.
Definitely is. Right, OK, speaking of those types, young communist students from Sydney, Australia have recorded a new recruitment video. Let's take a look.
UNSW.
And do you hate capitalism?
We're the UNSW Socialists. We're a club at UNSW dedicated to fighting for anti-capitalist politics.
We're the largest revolutionary socialist organisation in the country, Socialist Alternative.
We're for the complete overthrow of capitalism, a system based on exploitation and oppression.
No, insufferable. But I put it to you, my friends, that were they part of the 1930, 6 or 7 purge of the Soviet Union, I don't think these people would have lasted very long and probably would have missed their iPhones and all the rest of it.
And their education and their freedom to make the video.
Yeah, well, exactly. The whole thing, insane. Right, loads more to come tonight, including more.
From now on, women's sports will be only for women.
Revolutionary, eh?
You took the word out of my mind.
This is Saturday 5. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back in just a moment.
There will be a light breeze in the morning, leading to a warm front. Boxed heat pumps, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Hello there, very good evening to you. This is your GB News weather updates provided by the Met Office. The cloud that we've had around throughout Saturday is going to be staying with us into Sunday as well, particularly across central areas of the UK, Northern Ireland. Parts of England and Wales will continue to see outbreaks of rain and drizzle this evening and overnight. For the far north and south, though, we will start to see some clearer spells emerging, and underneath those clear skies, temperatures will drop off quite a touch, as low as -7 degrees Celsius for some rural parts of Scotland. This will be accompanied by some freezing fog patches, maybe also some icy stretches where surfaces are still wet, particularly if left untreated. Despite the very cold start to the day in Scotland, though, it is going to be a very sunny one here once the fog does eventually clear its way off, and we'll hold on to the sunshine right throughout the day. For Northern Ireland, then, into those central areas of England and Wales, it's going to be dull, drab and dreary, unfortunately. Further outbreaks of drizzle to contend with. But for the far south of England, we're starting the day off with something a touch brighter here. The cloud will tend to build from the east throughout the day, so we're going to be left with the fringes of parts of Pembrokeshire, West Wales and down towards Cornwall and the Isles of Scilly that will hold on to the sunshine the longest, whereas further rain pushes into southeastern England later on. With the cloud around, it is going to be another rather cold day, particularly once you factor in the easterly wind that's going to start building once again. So it's going to be feeling colder than these temperatures necessarily show on the chart. And that easterly wind is something that will hold on into the new working week as well. High pressure stays in control across Scandinavia, allowing that easterly wind to push its way in, and that is going to add a wind chill factor on top of the already cold conditions. Further showers pushing in from the North Sea with an extensive area of cloud. Those showers will be wintry over higher ground areas as well. It's a scenario that we're going to have to get used to because it is expected to stay very similar throughout the forthcoming week. Cloudy for the vast majority of us, and temperatures still slightly below average for the time of year. Bye-bye. Enjoy your evening.
Even though we'll see a cloudy start, it'll be a bright outlook for the rest of the day. Boxed Solar, sponsors of weather on GB News.
I'm Andrew Pearce. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good Afternoon Britain isn't just about us. The wonderful thing about this programme is it's about everyone watching. It's an interactive programme.
Well, there absolutely is something to see here, and we're going to be talking about it more. Whether it's breaking royal news, Will, please bring us up to date, or indeed a particularly punchy speech in the House of Commons.
Very, very curious.
We bring it to you live, and then we bring you live reaction as well.
That's Good Afternoon Britain, weekdays from midday.
Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
This is Britain's Newsroom, where your voice matters.
It's just astonishing. With expert analysis and honest opinion, we don't just keep you informed.
We bring you unique perspectives you won't see anywhere else.
Can't argue with any of that. When the news happens, it happens here.
On Britain's Newsroom, weekdays from 9:30 a.m.
Only on GB News.
Hi, I'm Michelle Dewberry, and my show is your opportunity to cut through all the noise and dive in headfirst to some robust debates. Ideas clash.
Situation, isn't it?
No,
Because the failure is...
You're deliberately avoiding my point. Nothing's held back.
And if you think this is the end of it, wait for more.
And we do not shy away from the difficult stuff. Sometimes I want to shake people and say, if only you understood. So join me on Jubes & Co. weeknights at 6 p.m, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Nana Akwe, for an informative, interactive news programme with a difference. It's fun.
No, you didn't say that, Dave.
I'm so surprised.
I think there's an element of truth to that.
Join me from 3 p.m. every weekend, only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
Join me, Camilla Tominey, for a frank and honest discussion with those in power that cuts through the spin and gets to the heart of the issues shaping our nation.
You haven't confirmed that you want to stand as leader, but you haven't ruled it out either.
This report basically says that he's not fit to stand trial. Is he indecisive? Incompetent? I deliver the dose of reality Westminster needs. That's the Camilla Tominey Show at 9:30 every Sunday on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
It's Patrick Christie's Tonight, and here we do things differently. It's explaining the absolute madness of this, doesn't it? It's explosive. I mean, this is very good. It's lively.
850. Your government sat there, Sean, and it did nothing.
It's controversial. And the Middle East has been in turmoil since before I was born. It's everything you need to kickstart your evening. Everyone's had their Weetabix tonight. I love to see it. That's Patrick Christie's Tonight, weeknights from 9 p.m. Only on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Michael Portillo. This is GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
I'm Bev Turner. Thank you for joining us on GB News, the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hello, it's 11 o'clock, which means it's time for tomorrow's newspapers tonight. Join us over the next hour for the following. Trump has said he won't deport Prince Harry because he thinks that being with Meghan is punishment enough. And there's shocking news that trans men, that's females who pretend that they're men, get seen first for fertility treatment and get it funded when real women don't. So ladies, if you want to skip the queue for IVF, you've got to say